Hey everybody, and welcome to the Everything Voiceover Podcast. My name is Justin D. Torres. The Everything Voiceover Podcast is brought to you by The Voice Realm, where only professional voice actors are listed. Today we're going to be talking about part 2 of the Forging Your Path into Voiceover special from everythingvoiceover.com. If you remember the last episode, feel free to go back and check it out. We talked about, the basic two different parts, two different types of voiceover, and the foundation that all voiceover artists have to go through, like classes and figuring out what works and getting better at the skill itself. So we found that there were two types of voiceover artists, the home studio voiceover artist and the in-studio voiceover artist, and then there's hybrids of both, or people who specialize in both. But when you're first starting out, you want to try and figure out which one you want to go after. And the reason for that, and the reason why I feel that that's very important, is that unfortunately a lot of money can be spent in throwing it at the wall, trying to figure out which one works. Now, if you focus on one of these, it'll help you immensely because you'll know what you're getting into. And ideally, as you get better at the one, let's say if you took the in-studio route and you got a lot of you were going for agents and going for casting directors and whatnot. After you get a casting director or an agent and you got your demo and you're getting really good at actual voiceover, and let's say you book a couple of jobs with an agent and they've signed you and you're doing great, if you focused on that once and you finally hit your goal, you may want to try and do home studio as well. As a matter of fact, agents sometimes recommend that you set up a tiny home studio just to get them auditions every now and then you could start working on that aspect of your career as well. On the other turn of the coin, if you're a home studio route person, you're learning, you're grinding out the life of a voiceover artist. You're trying to use pay-to-play sites. You're marketing yourself. You're trying to learn by taking classes, whether online and otherwise. And you're experimenting with mics and you're learning how to edit. So it's taking a lot of time and effort. But let's say you start getting really successful in the home studio route, and you're starting to make enough money, you could start putting that money into trying to figure out how to be an in-studio voiceover artist. But I think the problem is when people start doing both at the same time, and then they suddenly start getting demoralized because they feel like nothing's getting done well, and you don't know if something's working, and suddenly all this money is going out because if you think about it, you're spending twice as much money as a person who maybe would have listened to this podcast beforehand and figured out whether they should go after one or the other. And that's just something that, you're going to have to figure out on your own. And today we're actually going to have a couple of 4 questions that you need to ask yourself if you want to figure out which path you're going to go after. So if you want to, go ahead and get like a piece of paper out or a pen and paper and just write down these questions and leave a lot of block of space out, and when the podcast is over, really think about trying to answer those questions as truthfully as possible, because if you it's going to lean one way or the other. It's going to lean one way or the other, and I assure you, if you make the decision to go into one or the other, you will have a much better voiceover career, because you will be going twice as fast as everybody else, and you're going to be learning everything. You're going to know where you need to learn next. So the 4 questions are: how much time do you have? Number 1. Number 2 is how much money are you willing to spend? And number 3, how patient are you? And the last one, number 4, where do you live and are you willing to move for your craft? Okay? All right, we're going to go to each individual one. How much time do you have? If you have lots of time, the home studio route is definitely more beneficial. Some people want to be able to delve into a craft. So what I mean by that is like, I'm going to be a voiceover artist. I want to use all my waking hours to figure out, what should I do? Should I read a book? Should I look online? You could do that with the home studio route because you're going to be learning editing. You're going to be learning new software. You're going to be practicing auditions with pay-to-play sites, or you're going to be practicing marketing techniques and reaching out to agencies and production studios. You're going to be constantly trying to get better and better, and You may be able to be getting jobs and whatnot. It can take a huge amount of time, and it could be efficient time, and you could be listening to the podcast like mine or other podcasts, or listening to the SEO podcast to try and get your website working. The home studio route requires a lot of time, and it's also flexible in the way that you can kind of go down a rabbit hole of trying to figure out how to do things. But if you have lots of time, a home studio route might be a good idea. Now, what would happen if you had very little time? Now, an in-studio route would probably be a better usage of your time, because you're going to try and figure out how to network with agents and trying to figure out what classes there are. This shouldn't take too much time out of your day. I recently tried to look for classes in New York, and I found a couple of good ones, maybe 4 or 5, but they weren't right away. There weren't like ones happening this Wednesday that I could go to. Unfortunately, they're a month away, or they're 3 weeks away, and I'm trying to figure out, do I really want to spend money on that one or this one? It doesn't take that much time to go the in-studio route. You're going to be taking classes, you're going to be talking to agents, you're going to be maybe even reaching out to agents individually, whether it be through a one-on-one class with an agent, or maybe you're even emailing them cold calling agents as well. Now, this shouldn't take up too much time out of your day, and the classes themselves shouldn't take up too much time out of your week. On average, you should probably take, if you're really hardcore at trying to get into the in-studio route, you should probably take about 2 classes a week, and that could be 2 to 3 hours each class, and maybe even a coaching class, a 1-hour coaching class. So that's only about 5 hours, 6 hours of the week that'll be dedicated to actual classes. Now, unfortunately, I don't think that should be your only voiceover route. I think you should be practicing on your own. Pay-to-play sites are a good way to do that, or just like if you have a voiceover meetup group, get some scripts and try and practice that way. So if you have little time, very little time, in-studio route might be a good idea. Number 2, how much money are you willing to spend? If you've got unlimited money and time, you could probably do both. Do as much as you want, because it's going to cost money. It's going to be a big money sink. If you have a small amount of money, home studios can start small and be very cheap. Mics can be as low as $100 to $200. The mic that I'm on right now is about $89, and the mic that I use for voiceover is much more. But this is doable. There's going to be smaller jobs that are maybe $100 or $50 that might be okay with using a smaller mic like this, and it's all just practice if you think about it. And the software you need, Audacity, is free. The tech side doesn't take that much money, and you could also listen to podcasts and classes and look at YouTube videos, and you can figure out how to voice act through that. You could look at commercials and do that as well. There are cheap ways that you can do to learn voiceover, is it a substitute for a good class? No, but it's a great start. And if you are really hankering and you're really low on cash, I wouldn't say, if it was a choice between paying less rent or like not making rent and taking a voiceover class, I'd say if you don't take the voiceover class, just look online and try and figure out what you can do from there. Audition through ACX. It's a free audition place that you can audition for an audiobook for free, basically. And as you grow, all the tech aspects will grow with you, and it doesn't have to be a huge investment. If you have a large amount of money, in studio can be costly, and you could do that. If you have a large amount, I'm talking about classes, and classes do take a lot of money. The average class in New York, a 9-week or 6-week class, can be anywhere from $400 to $600 or even more. Pat Fraley does an audiobook weekend, which costs about, $1,600. But at the end, you get a demo of your audiobook book demo, and I've heard people do well on it, and I'm literally considering doing it because I've never met Pat Fraley, and he's an amazing voiceover actor, and I actually bought a CD set a long time ago. So that was when I was having a small amount of money, and I was like, oh, I should buy this class, this CD collection, and I did, and I loved it. I thought it was great. You're going to be spending a lot of money in the in-studio route, and agents. You might be being coached by a casting director. You might be going into one-on-one classes where you get to meet an agent at the end. You may be taking voiceover classes with individuals, speech people. Yeah, and at some point, an agent may ask you, like, have you got a demo? And that's demo productions when it comes to in studio routes is important for certain agents, especially for union agents. They almost require you to have a demo, but that's also, it's a higher level of it's a higher echelon of voiceover actor as a union actor, because they can't do the stuff that the pay to play stuff that I do and that other people do, because it's not union. So yeah, it's in studio route. If you have a large amount of money to deal with, then the in studio route might be a good idea to start with. It's also a lot easier, but the payoff is that you're not spending time, learning editing. You're spending time on the craft of networking and the craft of voiceover. Now would be a great time to bring up that the Everything Voiceover Podcast is brought to you by The Voice Realm, where only professional voice actors are listed. Now, this next one is, how patient are you? Now, patience, there's a couple different ways you can deal with patience. Now, patience is huge in a home studio. You are learning multiple skills. We're talking about editing, recording, acting, marketing, which is a huge skill that even I have trouble with. You're doing a million different things. Editing is hard. Oh my goodness. Well, you're gonna have so much troubleshooting problems with the recording. Sometimes it's not as simple as plugging in the mic, and sometimes you plug in the mic and it doesn't work and you don't know what you're doing. All of this stuff is not what an actor does. So when you say a voiceover actor, we're doing a lot more than just acting, especially the in-home studio actor. Like the in-studio actor, voiceover actor it could easily be someone who's never learned how to edit. So if you're patient with yourself and you have and you're patient with the fact that you will fail and it will be hard and you will have to learn skills, then if you're very patient with yourself, then home studio is good. However, if you're not very patient with money and you're looking for a big return on investment, or at least a small return on investment, home studio might actually work out better, because you're going to be working extremely hard, extremely quickly, and your skills will be going up a little bit quicker depending on how committed you are. And the smaller edge jobs, even as small as $50 to $75 to $100, you actually have a good chance at. I can be honest that the newer people, the people who work hard and grind at it, they actually do what they need to get done, and it's very likely that you will actually get some of your payment back. I would say within the first year, maybe within 2 years, and if you've stuck with a smaller edge studio, you could probably make back the money that you spent. Here I am in my 6th or 7th year of voiceover, and I definitely make back what I put into it, which is great. Now, the other thing is, like, how patient for in studio. Patience can go either way. There are people out there who've done like 1 class or 2 classes, and they've just gone straight into agencies, or they people who know people, and they've just went straight to the top and started auditioning with agencies. And then there are also the other edge of that extreme, where people who have been doing classes forever and they've never gotten an agent or never had any investment. Or there's people who have never did a demo and suddenly got an agent, and then they somehow managed to piece together a demo after that. And then there's people who've done 4 or 5 demos and have never gotten an agent. So it depends on your success, basically, and there's no way to tell you how successful you're going to be. I can only try and prepare you for the fact that it could be a while. So it really just depends on how you're going to deal with how you're going to deal with the possibility of not being successful, and how you're going to get yourself up and just keep hacking at it, because these are all different types of grinds and they both take up a lot of time. You have to be good, which takes time, and if you're limiting yourself to voiceover classes, that's another thing. You shouldn't be doing that. You should be practicing voiceover in other aspects. That means maybe set up a voiceover meetup group and talk with people there, and start trading auditions like that, or it's you have to figure out how to make unfortunately within studio auditions, you have to figure out how to get yourself to practice without doing the practice of doing pay-to-play auditions. And you have to kind of work with that. But it's something you have to think about. And the last one is where do you live, and are you willing to move for your craft? Number one, if you're in a home studio, you can stay put. That's dependent on noise. If you have a noisy street, it could hurt you. I've lived next to a heating pipe, which sucks, and you just have to record when it's quiet. And if you have a roomie and there's a TV in the room, and whenever they're home, it's suddenly you can't hear anything. Closets are great. I wouldn't say you have to have a closet, but for the most part, you don't have to relocate if you're doing the home studio route. It's if you're, let's say if you have to be in an area that's not New York or LA, take the home studio route. If for some reason you see New York, and if you have enough money and monetary value that you either live in LA already or New York already, or you have friends that are there, and you're like, oh, well, maybe I should go down and live in LA for a little bit. That should be fun. Why not? The home studio is there for people who cannot relocate, basically. In studio, you have a distinct advantage for living in LA and New York. LA talent, you have to have a car because auditions are very spread out and their busing system is horrible. The New York talent, you have to have a subway pass because you have to be able to get places for auditions very quickly, and the subway works perfectly. Now, no matter what agents say, because some agents may be like, oh yeah, you don't need to live in LA or New York. That's a lie. There is a bunch of walk-in auditions that are going on in voiceover all the time in New York and LA, and there are a couple in Atlanta and the smaller markets, but it's not, the big ones are always going to be in New York. New York is where all the agencies are. That's where they want to go for the big money. So you will have an advantage if you live in those two places. And those type of auditions where you walk in, they're huge because you're getting to know people. You're getting to know what the casting directors look like. They see you. They're going to be able to meet you. They're going to see if you're happy and sad, or see if you're late or early. They'll see if you have a smile on your face. If you're in a non-populated area, you will lose out on those huge auditions. So you have to consider where you are and if you are willing to move. Okay. So those are your 4 questions. I hope you have them written down and that you can start really trying to figure out which route you want to take. Stay tuned for the next episode of Forging Your Path into Voiceover from everythingvoiceover.com. My name is Justin D. Torres. The Everything Voiceover Podcast is brought to you by The Voice Realm, where only professional voice actors are listed. Thanks for hanging in there, and be sure to check in next week. We're gonna keep doing this 4-part series of Forging Your Path into Voiceover. Thanks for listening.